Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving into the closing session. The panel on our responsibility over the next decade, upholding the Stockholm Declaration. This session is being held in memory of Israel Izzy Asper, a man of vision who was passionately committed to promoting Holocaust studies as well as human rights education, not only in Canada but throughout the world. It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Mo Levy, the director of the Asper Foundation, who will be chairing this final session.
Thank you, Ephraim. Mr. Avner Shalev, survivors, ambassadors, and honored guests. I can't express enough in words what a pleasure it is for me to be here today to serve both as the chair of the closing panel and as well to address you on why Dr. Israel Asper thought it was necessary for me, in fact, to be standing right here today. In fact, it was in not that far back, it seems like in 2002, when he stood in front of where I'm standing to announce the creation of this program, which actually brings you all here today. And let me quote what he said. He said, "The Asper Foundation is proud to play an integral role in supporting Yad Vashem, a world-renowned institution respected not only for commemorating the victims of the Holocaust, but imparting the lessons of the Holocaust and educating people worldwide to help ensure that the rally cry, 'Never Again,' refers not only to Jews, but to all peoples." Indeed, I have to tell you, in having worked with him for many years, he felt that way not just about the Jewish people, but about everyone. And that he felt that the lessons of the Holocaust needed to be extended. And I'm so pleased to hear in the sessions today that that thought is running through. I think that was the catalyst. In fact, some of you here may know that we run Canada's only national education program, a student program, called the Human Rights and Holocaust Studies Program. To date, we have taken 8,200 students from across Canada, the vast majority of them non-Jewish, to Washington, initially followed by a 20-hour course on the Holocaust. Very intense, and after school, so there's a real commitment. They spend 3 days visiting the U.S. Holocaust Museum and other badges to freedom and democracy. Seeing that change that program made to the students that went on it created another major institution, which some of you may be aware of, but we are hoping will open in about 2012, and that is the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. It will be the largest and the only one of its kind in the world. A $310 million project with about $30 million a year in operating costs. And I'm really pleased to say that in 2007, a visionary leader of Canada, the Prime Minister Stephen Harper, came to Winnipeg and made this a national museum. What it means by that is that the museum now belongs to the federal government, and they pay for its operating costs into perpetuity. So it's a tremendous example of a public-private partnership where the three levels of government put in $160 million, and the private sector has raised the rest, which is a monumental task, I must add. And I'm pleased to say that we're at about 90% of having raised that the private sector funds. I'm also pleased to say that the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, of course, will be coming to Winnipeg on July the 3rd to lay the cornerstone of this museum in Canada. So it underscores the importance of this institution in the world. So we are, from the Asper Foundation, we look at Yad Vashem as being our major partner in this whole mission, vision, and journey towards creating a better world. And for that, I have to thank Avner Shalev and his team, Dorit, and Rochelle, Jane Jacobs, David Meltzer, Ephraim K., and Lyra Brotman for really sticking with it for the last few years and making this the success that it has been. So please thank them for the incredible effort. And again, on behalf of the trustees of the Asper Foundation and one of my co-conspirators here, Shai Abramson, who works with me, who works in our Israeli desk, thank you all for coming here, and thank you all for making such great inroads and becoming part of this journey. Thank you. I would now like to call on the three panelists to please come up here. Dr. Donskis, Mr. Kwasniewski, and Mr. Mesic. Please come up. The format for this closing panel is as follows. I will, in alphabetical order, call the three panelists to come up and give us their opening remarks for about a few minutes. Following that, each one will then get back to their seats, of course. And then we have a few questions that I will pose to the panelists. So I would like to start with Dr. Donskis, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President Kwasniewski, Mr. President Mesic, dear survivors, colleagues, I have a great pleasure and a privilege to address you and to share some insights into some, I think, fundamental tasks and objectives for the next decade concerning the Stockholm Declaration. I have to tell you something in a very overt fashion. So instead of saying something very sweet, very comforting, and something that would be, in a way, representative of bon ton concerning my country, I would like to share some critical insights and to destroy the rules of the game. So my message will be quite critical and quite frank. There is very little that I would like to celebrate about what's happening in the Baltic states and in Lithuania concerning our attitude to our difficult historical past. And concerning the Stockholm Declaration, I have a very strange feeling. I think that some East Central European countries, and the Baltic countries in particular, somehow are departing from that promise which was floating in the air in the 90s. When my country became independent, it was very widely assumed that the time has come for liberty, for freedom of thought, and for the truth. And how can you liberate yourself? How can you emancipate your soul, your consciousness, without coming to terms with what happened in your history? And we knew that some aspects were very, very difficult. And the tragedy of the country was that several generations had a twisted, simplified, and distorted view of the past of the country. And of course, for this reason, we had very, very high hopes that this club for which the country was striving, the European Union, NATO, would allow us to be on the right track, would allow us to speak our minds, would allow us to overcome ourselves. But now I have to say that we are witnessing a backlash, and in a way, there is a document whose principles and spirit fundamentally contradicts the Stockholm Declaration, namely the Prague Declaration, which is something very much opposed to the spirit of the Stockholm Declaration. Concerning my country, I have to say that one of the most unfortunate things is an idea of equalization of two totalitarianisms or two regimes from which Europe was suffering immensely: communism and National Socialism. The idea of equalization, or the idea of a comparison of two regimes, have little, if any, to do with the sensitivity and with the idea of paying our respect and taking a bow to the suffering of the people. I'm just afraid that in many ways it is just our runaway, and our surrender concerning the most difficult aspects of our past with which we're simply unable to come to terms. And for this reason, I think that the game will be very tough. If I have to say something about the coming decade, I think that in my country, the political elite proved simply too weak to tackle those things, to tackle those issues. And when you say to the electorate or to society what they would like to hear instead of the truth, I think we're simply betraying the idea and the concept of civilized politics, which has its educational aspect. Politics is not about winning the election at any price. Politics is about some educational, historical lessons, about some moral, spiritual leadership. I'm just afraid to say that we're abandoning those aspects of politics. That's why I have a feeling that the beginning of the 21st century shows that some historical and political dramas of East and Central Europe proved to be more difficult than we expected to. And that's why I wouldn't like to deceive myself, and we shouldn't comfort ourselves with very comforting and sweet lies. It will be a very difficult game. I see that the most liberal-spirited, the most liberal-spirited people in my country are feeling like a dissenting voice. People whose position is not becoming a mainstream policy, very far from it. So that's why, not to sound very pessimistic, I would like to say that it is now that we need more than ever the international voice of solidarity, reason, and decency. The voice of decency which would come from the European Union, from Western Europe, the voice of decency and reason from Israel, the United States, from every self-respecting country which knows what it's like to have a very difficult history and very difficult past. My final point, if I may have just 20 seconds before I finish my introductory remarks, is that, of course, I'm very happy about some things that happened to my country and to the region. If anybody told me in, say, 1993 that Lithuania would become member of NATO and member of the European Union, I would have responded that, well, this is more than science fiction. This is something, just beyond that. But in fact, this happened. And when I hear some disappointed voices concerning that lack of solidarity in Europe, I just ask myself, what kind of solidarity we need? We're in the club already. So, and Europe is united. But the point is that it's a very difficult homework. It's a homework of consciousness. It's a homework of historical lessons. It's a homework of our ability to face the future. And I think that what is very important is a sort of maybe ethic, sort of political ethic, which is even more important now in Europe than ever before. And the ethic is that sometimes it is more important to say something unpleasant, but absolutely necessary, than to win the election. It's better to lose politically, but to benefit from the moral point of view. It's better to speak addressing the future. It's better to address the generations to come if you see that the battle is lost with your generation. And we have to take this lesson more seriously than 20 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donskis. I should have mentioned that Mr. Donskis is a member of the European Parliament. I would now like to call on Mr. Kwasniewski, the former president of Poland.
Thank you. After remarks of dear friend Mr. Donskis from Lithuania, it's not easy to be here as a politician who won sometimes the elections. But I tell you, and maybe I'm not bad evidence that it's possible to have great projects in front, to be based on the strong values and moral approach, and to win the election. It's not easy, but it's still possible. Maybe not everywhere, but sometimes somewhere for sure, yes. But first of all, before very brief remarks, because we were asked to have not too long speeches, I said to our moderator that it is dangerous to invite politicians, especially former politicians, because finally former politicians have good audience to listen to us, and we have more time, because we have not these necessary duties on the back. But the first, I would like to say that I'm very honored to be here, to be invited to this conference. I was in Yad Vashem several times. I remember opening ceremony of a new museum, 2005. It was a special day, maybe the most, the coolest or the coldest day in Jerusalem during last decades. We were almost frozen, but we were extremely satisfied and impressed by this new building and new exhibitions and a new place for Yad Vashem. In my long time, 10 years as a president of Poland, I had many opportunities to cooperate with Yad Vashem, and I remember all our meetings, all our contacts as one of the most interesting and greatest pieces of my presidential history. I would like to say to Avner Shalom how I'm grateful to you and to your work, especially in Polish-Jewish relationships. I think this is really great contribution, and I remember this very well, and I'm sure that Polish state remembers about it very, very well. And what is, before my remarks, important to say, I was encouraged by moderator to say some advice to you educators what we should do. But after your debate here, after what I listened, and after this introduction of our Lithuanian friends, I know even better that we politicians, we need education, and you educators, you don't need maybe especially our advice. But if you are so polite and you invite us to this, so we try to make some maybe not advice, but our remarks from our point of view. And the first, what maybe more optimistic, because the second part of my introduction is not pessimistic, but I would like to say something about the challenges, because really we have new era, and that is quite obvious after even debate today, after discussion today, that we understand how the world changed around us and how many new challenges we have in front of us. But what is absolutely optimistic and what I would like to express and underline is that achievements of everything of Yad Vashem and many educators in the world and many groups and many institutions and many NGOs is unbelievable. 60 years after the end of the Second World War, the World War II, this topic, this subject, this discussion exists. And that is, of course, some who say, well, what is a special that should exist? Yes, they should exist, but if we see how much happened in the world last many decades, we should understand how deep this knowledge about Holocaust, about the history of Jews during the Second World War and earlier and after, is in many places, in many groups of the society, still open in open discussion and with more and more deeper understanding. I agree very much with this quotation which was at the beginning of our conference today about this hand grenade and these sharpeners which are in our bodies, even if we don't know about it. This grenade is a Holocaust, and I think this is something what is absolutely true. Of course, my experience is first of all from Poland, but last years I was asked to be chairman of European Council of Tolerance and Reconciliation, and I met many groups in Europe and in the world, and we discussed the questions of the history of Holocaust, etc. And I understood that even with the people with some skeptical approach, and even with our real opponents, they feel they have some sharpener of Holocaust in own bodies. And that is something what, in my opinion, is very important for the future. And that is not only result of the history, what is obvious, but that is a result of your efforts and is your real achievement. I think Poland is a good example as well, because of course, first what is necessary to say, the history in our countries in Central and Eastern European region changed dramatically and very positive direction. And this region is extremely important for the history of Holocaust, because it was a place when 100 years lived a Jewish community. In Poland, the community of Jews before Second World War was bigger than in the United States. It was more than 3 million people. And the Holocaust was really, it was a crime, it was a massacre of millions, of 6 million of Jews. And everything what happened in our region during the last 20 years, of course, is our success because today we are members of the European Union. And still, if you have some nervous information from European Union, I promise you that this project will develop and the future of European Union is not bad. We are in NATO and that is okay, but in these elements, which are very much connected with the Holocaust, with the history of Jews, the change, the situation, the quality of discussion, the number of publications, the places of institutions which are engaged to protect the places of Holocaust increased very much. Today, really, you have in our region a lot of extremely engaged, good partners. And I'm sure that is true, that you can accept my words, because you can find, and not only the generation of the war, but the youngest generation in the universities, in the governments, in the institutions. So I think this change is your success as well. We have education, better education in the schools. We have better school books. We have. We will open next year in Warsaw Museum of the History of Jews in Poland. What is the history of 1,000 years of our common life on Polish soil? So I think if you see all these examples from many places of the world, we can say that we didn't waste this time for commemoration of the history of Holocaust, for respect for survivors, for delivery of our information and knowledge and feelings to younger generation. And that is what I think is necessary to say from the side of the politician, because without you, without your engagement and such educators, such people as you, it would be impossible. But second element is much more complicated, because really we have new challenges, and that is something what is necessary to understand. And we heard now that you have some ideas how to overcome these problems, or how to solve these problems, and how to maybe open new kinds of activities. What kind of challenges I see? The first, what is natural but very, very sad, of course, we have last survivors among us. And you who participate in this first conference with 3 survivors, you understood immediately how strong are the words, the sentences, the feelings which people can offer to us. That is something what is absolutely not possible to replace. The generation of survivors, the generation of the people who use this language of morality, this language of the highest ethic values, this language of own experience, the language and this feelings of everything what happened during this darkest time in the history of humanity, that is something what was extremely important element of our activities, and we should think what we will do when the last generation or last survivors will leave us, and that is a question of time. We wish all of them all the best, but still that's the problem. The second, that is the problem with new generation. I have some experiences with young people in the universities, not only in Poland but in many countries. And I tell you, that is a very objective situation, that we start to discuss about the history. And those students are born 90, 91. The history of the Second World War, this is not a history, that is a prehistory. Even to speak, when I'm speaking, I'm invited many times to speak about 20 years of transition from the communism to democracy. The 20 years, what happened in our region 20 years ago, that is prehistory for these young students as well. So that is something what we should know. That is objective fact. We have generation, for them, all these elements of the history are similar. And something happened in 20th century, something happened in 18th century, 16th century, to find arguments that this history of Holocaust is extremely universal, important to know. That is our task, and not easy task. The third point is, I know it's short, so I should be short, but that is so interesting, and I'm so much animated by many speeches this day that please allow me to speak some maybe minutes more. The next point are politicians. Of course, the politicians are not the best everywhere, we know it, but the problem is that in this new politics of the 21st century, we see that this distance to the Second World War created some new kind of demand for the so-called historical policy, or the question of the change of historical memory. In Poland, we had this very special time of brothers Kaczynskis in power, and it was a time how we, in politics, in the official politics of the state, we started to use this element of historical memory as a political weapon, in fact. And then, of course, we can say that is the problem of post-communist countries only. No, that is not true. The problem of historical memory, some redefinition, I don't speak about revision, because I'm sure that the revision is only the margin of this phenomenon. But this redefinition of some historical questions, or to start to speak about taboo, which existed quite a long time in many countries, including Germany, for example. Because the history of Germany after the end of the war, that is still not open for the publics. What happened in civilian after the war, with women, with factories which were transported to Soviet Union, for example. So we have a lot of new researches, and we can expect new books and new discussion about all the things next year. So historical memory is a weapon which can be used by politicians, not only in new democracies, but in many countries, and that is the point which we have to manage as well. The next point is media, and I think that is something what we should understand is changing strongly, but we have to redefine our concept, how we'll use media for Holocaust education. And of course, I have more points, but maybe during discussion I can say something more. But finally, I would like to say, even with these new challenges, which are really new and not easy, and even quite complicated, we should work, we should be active, and I think the role of you, of educators, and the role of such institutions as the Vashem is absolutely crucial. And I remember such very clever Latin sentence that historia is magistra vitae, history is the best teacher of life. Or the best, and unfortunately sometimes I have the impression that really the history is the best teacher, but we are not the best students or pupils in this class. And I think the role of you, educators, is to make us best students and best pupils. Of course, I'm speaking including politicians also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwasniewski. I would now like to call on the former president of Croatia, Mr. Mesic, to come up. You may all now wish to put on your translation headphones. If you know Croatian, of course, please, you don't have to.
Gospođe i gospodo, morate nažalost uzeti slušalice. Ja sam sa velikim osjećajem odgovornosti prihvatio današnje prisustvo na ovoj 7. međunarodnoj konferenciji o obrazovanju o Holokaustu. Ali to moram naglasiti, ni trenutka nisam oklijevao da poziv prihvatim. Jer mislim da je ono o čemu raspravljamo izuzetno važno, ne samo zbog onih koje se sjećamo, nego i sve više zbog novih generacija za koje ne smijemo dozvoliti da se prestanu sjećati. Sjećanje je bitni, zapravo nezaobilazni element svakoga obrazovanja o holokaustu, pri čemu termin obrazovanje upotrebljavam u najširem smislu riječi. Pri tome moramo polaziti od nekih ključnih, nepobitnih elemenata, od nekih istina koje nikakva politička pragmatičnost ne može i ne smije poljuljati. Prije svega, holokaust je zločin jedinstven u povijesti čovječanstva, barem u onoj povijesti koju poznajemo. Upravo zbog toga apsolutno je neprihvatljivo, a takvih pokušaja ima sve više, pa i u mojoj zemlji, Hrvatskoj, da se zločin holokausta naprosto svrsta u spektar zločina totalitarnih režima, bez obzira na njihov ideološki predznak. Drugim riječima, da se izjednače zločini nacifašizma sa zločinima u prvom redu komunističkih režima. Ponavljam još jednom, to je apsolutno neprihvatljivo. Mogu razumjeti želju onih koji su trpjeli pod autoritarnošću režima koji su se nazivali komunističkima, da i kroz to izjednačavanje istaknu svoju patnju. Ali još više mogu razumjeti pobornike povijesnog revizionizma, da takvim izjednačavanjem u zločinu zapravo relativiziraju pravu prirodu nacifašizma i da zamagle pravi karakter holokausta. Mogu razumjeti, ali ne mogu i neću prihvatiti. Naime, Hrvatska, kojoj sam imao čast biti predsjednik, nastala je u antifašističkoj borbi. Reći ću vam samo dva podatka. Kvislinških ustaša u Hrvatskoj je bilo 56.000, a partizana 300.000. Koja Hrvatska je danas onda? Da li je ona kvislinška, čiji pripadnici su izvršili grozne zločine? Ili je Hrvatska antifašistička koja je dočekala s Jugoslavijom zajedno rat na pobjedničkoj strani? Imamo još jedan problem mi u Hrvatskoj. Da se pokušava osveta koja je bila 45. izjednačiti s onim što je bilo prije. Njemačka je 45. doživjela velike i moram reći i teške udare. Kapitulirala je, bilo je i osvete. Ali ne smijemo gledati ono što se dogodilo samo u Njemačkoj 45. Mi moramo gledati što se dogodilo Židovima od tiskanja Mein Kampfa 23. pa od 33. do 45. Što se dogodilo Židovima i mnogim drugima? Isto to mogu reći i za Hrvatsku. Moramo poći od toga da je poslije 45. došlo i do osvete. Stradali su i oni neki koji su bili nevini. Ali ne smijemo gledati samo što se dogodilo 45. Moramo vidjeti što se događalo od 41. do 45. u svim logorima u Hrvatskoj, gdje su brutalnosti bile vrlo velike. Njemačka je imala industriju smrti, a kod nas su ubistva bila brutalna. Samo da vas još jednom uvedem u naš prostor. Kada je Njemačka kapitulirala 8. maja 45. kvislinške snage nastavile su pružati otpor još 10-ak dana. Nisu predale oružje. U tom vremenu poginulo je preko 1500 partizana. Preko 3500 je ranjeno. Da li su oni trebali poginuti i da li su trebali biti ranjeni kada je Njemačka kapitulirala i oni su morali kapitulirati? I dolazi do osvete. A sada bi neki htjeli da ti koji su pružali otpor, koji nisu predali oružje, da budu proglašene također žrtvama totalitarizma. Moram vam još dati jedan podatak. Mnogi su se povukli u šume, ustaše i četnici. Ustaše su pružali otpor do 51. godine, a četnici do 55. godine. U tim borbama su ginuli i policija i vojska s jedne strane i odmetnici i kvisnici s druge strane. Ali da li su to žrtve totalitarizma? Ili je to rat s odmetnicima koji nisu priznali kapitulaciju? Zato treba biti vrlo oprezan kada se govori o žrtvama Holokausta i žrtvama drugih totalitarizama. Hvala vam lijepo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mesic. Now we will now start the questions. Okay, I'll start again from my left to Mr. Donskis. During Holocaust Memorial Days, we often place a strong emphasis on commemorating Holocaust victims. However, Holocaust Remembrance Days can also be an opportunity to grapple with the identities of the perpetrators and collaborators and their crimes. How do you suggest that young people in your respective countries grapple with their oftentimes difficult national history?
I think that a clue to this important problem would be our understanding that history is very difficult to divide. So we cannot have a selective approach to history saying that there are some things that are very pleasant for us and some other things that should be left for the future or put aside. I think that we have to accept our history, and when it comes to the most difficult aspects, for instance, the Holocaust Remembrance Days, I think that this embraces both aspects. On the one side, it is very important to express our deepest respect to the survivors and to those who fell victims of the brutality of the genocide of the Jews. But at the same time, I think that every country has to know the names of the perpetrators. It is absolutely critical. And let me remember a poet and translator, Thomas Venclova, who I think is quite well known in several countries. He is a cultural hero in Lithuania and Poland, where he has several honorary doctorates. Thomas Venclova was the first Lithuanian who wrote an article about the crimes of his fellow Lithuanians against the Jews. And the article was called "The Jews and Lithuanians." And it was published in Israel. It appeared in the Russian language. And then it was translated in the Kirachi, the Horizons, the liberal monthly in Chicago, Illinois. And of course, it dealt a blow to many people who thought that, of course, it was true, but maybe it was too early. Maybe Lithuania had to become independent before, opening the most unpleasant aspects of its past. And Thomas Venclova replied many times to his friends and colleagues by saying that, but the truth and Lithuania cannot be divided. So either we are independent in our spirit, in our mind, or what kind of independence we're trying to discuss. I don't need the independence and freedom, which excludes morality and excludes my ability to come to terms with what happened in my country. So, and I think that this is very important. Thomas Venclova was the first Lithuanian who put it black and white. The Holocaust was not only about the killing of the Jews. not only about the massacre of the Jews of Lithuania, it was the destruction of Lithuania. It dealt a mortal blow to the legacy of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, where Jews lived for 6 centuries, side by side with Lithuanians. It dealt a mortal blow to the concept and the legacy of multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multicultural Lithuania. The Holocaust was the final page, the stroke with which Lithuania perished, the Lithuania we knew for centuries. And I think we can only understand how it is important to know the names of perpetrators and how important it is to embrace every aspect of the Holocaust only when we realize that the Holocaust cannot be put aside as an aspect, as a footnote of Lithuanian history. It is not the end note. It is not the footnote. It is inseparable from Lithuanian history. It is a tragedy of Lithuanians and the tragedy of Lithuania. Otherwise, I cannot find any answer.
Thank you.
Yes, well, I'm experienced with this problem, how to deal it, because you know you are so well informed and interested in all these stories. You know, Jedwabne case, this massacre organized by Polish citizens against Polish citizens but Jews in Jedwabne, small village on the northern eastern part of Poland. And after the book of Professor Gross, who was first who informed public opinion in Poland about this crime, there started very dramatic and painful debate in Poland. I was president of the country, of the state. I decided to commemorate this place. I decided to say openly, forgive us for this crime, and I spoke about responsibility of Polish people for that. Of course, it was not easy, but of course, when you ask me today, I'm sure that it was a good lesson for Polish people. It was important time to understand that, of course, for each nation in the world, it's much nicer to have only brilliant chapters of the history. But that's, I don't know if such nation in the world exists. So if you want to speak openly about the history, it's necessary to see these very nice chapters and bad chapters, negative things, and to have a strength, to have a power to discuss all these things. So my first answer to your question is, of course, we have facts and we should know about these facts, and we should inform young people about the facts, and that should be full history, good things and bad things, everything. And of course, what is a problem for new democracy, but not only, I think, that many of elements of our history still is not known, still that is some kind of taboo, and we have to confront us with some new information which are not very, very pleasant. But the first, facts, yes, for the facts we should work and deliver all these facts to public opinion. The second is politics, and of course politics, because it exists everywhere, in such situation is a very strong element, important factor. And of course it would be better if in your countries, in our country, we can find politicians enough responsible, enough moral to discuss about all these facts without political interest, without political fight, without political tricks, without overestimation this historical questions. But of course that is a good wish. Sometimes it happens, sometimes not. I remember the debate in Poland about Jedwabne, and I have not advice for other countries. I think that is very special domestic issue, how politicians want to deal such complicated questions. And the last point, which maybe is really advice to educators, to all of us, politicians also. If we speak about dramatic elements of history, predators, dark chapters, etc., it's necessary to, even if you are victims, if you speak on behalf of victims. I don't speak about Holocaust now, but that is a question in Polish-Russian relationship. That is the question of Polish-Ukrainian relationship. And if you have this moral strength to speak on behalf of the victims, you should understand that that is a very delicate question, and it's necessary to keep enough sensitivity with the dialogue with this representative, let's say, responsible for the crime. I think this sensitivity is a part of psychology, and we need this sensitivity when we discuss today this question. Because what should be the next stage after the facts, after discussion about the crime? The next step should be reconciliation. And for reconciliation, it's necessary to open not only the doors for debate, it's necessary to open our hearts for good dialogue and understanding. So my advice is, even if we speak about the darkest chapters in the history of one nation or another one nation, this sensitivity should be the precondition of frank, honest, and successful dialogue with partners. And that, of course, is how we should discuss all these problems with our young people, with our youngsters, with sensitivity, because that is necessary for understanding, not to close our mind and say, no, that is impossible, I will not discuss these issues because are too complicated. This psychology is important element, so facts, not too much, a lot of facts, or all facts, not too much politics, and a lot of psychology, of sensitivity in these questions.
Thank you. Mr. Mesic, please.
U mnogim zemljama uveden je dan sjećanja na Holokaust, ali to se ne smije pretvoriti u nekakvo predavanje, o prikazivanje nekog filma i time bi posao bio završen. Budući da se radi o najvećem zločinu počinjenog u povijesti, to mora biti i na drugi način osmišljeno. Naime, svaka žrtva ima svoje ime i prezime, ali svaki zločinac ima svoje ime i prezime. Pa kao što se moramo sjećati žrtava, ne smijemo zaboraviti ni tko je bio ubojica. Kod nas je poslije osamostaljenja Hrvatske bila jedna ideja da se kosti i žrtava i onih koji su poginuli, a krivci su za žrtve, da se jednostavno stave u istu kosturnicu i da kažemo pomirili smo se. Oni se ne mogu pomiriti. Ne mogu se pomiriti oni koji su ubijali i oni koji su ubijeni. Mi ne možemo niti pomirivati ideologije onog vremena. Ne možemo, mi nemamo na to pravo. Ja ću vam reći samo jedan slučaj. U jednom selu, tik uz Jadransko more, koje se zove Lipa, fašisti su opkolili selo koje je imalo nešto preko 500 stanovnika. 269 su zarobili. Od toga 120 djece do 12 godina. Svih 269 su zatvorili u jednu kuću, zapalili, bacili bombe i poubijali. Jedna žena je uspjela izbaciti svoje dijete od otprilike 5 godina koji je bježao od požara. Jedan SS-ovac je pucao, pogodio ga je, ali ne smrtno. Mali je pokleknuo, digao se i dalje bježao. On je potrčao za njim, uhvatio ga za vrat i bacio natrag u vatru. Sigurno, budite sigurni da je takav slučaj i drugi slučajevi djelovao i na osvetu poslije Drugog svjetskog rata. Ali ono na što mi moramo upozoriti, to je da mi nove generacije, iako sam ja čitav rat proveo na slobodnom teritoriju, išao sam u partizansku školu. Mi smo u Hrvatskoj imali najveći slobodni teritorij u Europi. Tako da ja ne mogu baš puno govoriti o onome što se događalo izvan slobodnog teritorija. Ali toliko znam da su jedni bili na pravoj strani, a drugi su bili na krivoj strani. Imali smo jednu suludu ideju poslije hrvatske samostalnosti da se trg žrtava, jedan lijepi trg u Zagrebu, nazove drugim imenom, a da se ukine ime trg žrtava fašizma. Mi smo demonstrirali, u tim demonstracijama sam i sam sudjelovao i vratili smo trg žrtava fašizma. Na jednoj takvoj demonstraciji mi smo govorili otprilike svi na isti način. Zašto žrtve fašizma zaslužuju da imaju vječni pijetet? Jedan između nas je došao i rekao: moj otac je bio ustaša. Mi smo se svi malo sledili. Moj otac je poginuo na završnim operacijama kada su se povlačili prema Njemačkoj. Ja sam volio svog oca, on je rekao, kao što svaki sin voli svoga oca. Ali moj otac je bio na pogrešnoj strani i nemojte danas od mene tražiti da budem na pogrešnoj strani. To je ono što mislim da moramo učiti ove nove generacije. Da ne smiju biti na pogrešnoj strani, jer vidimo da ponovo u nekim sredinama pojavljuje se jedno zrnce fašizma. Komunizam je mega ideja i on može egzistirati samo kao mega ideja. I on je nestao sa svjetske scene. Ali fašizam može nastati u maloj sredini sa tendencijom da se širi. Zato je važno učiti o Holokaustu i učiti ne samo o žrtvama, nego i o zločincima.
Thank you very much. Like, wow, I think we could all stay here all night long and listen to these three gentlemen who have really captured so much of the soul of their countries and of that history. We would love to continue. However, I don't want people to say that this guy was a lousy moderator. So I'm going to try and, it is now a minute to 6 o'clock. So I'm going to now wrap up just by concluding by thanking my three distinguished guests here. Let's give them a huge hand. Thank you very much, and I know we will all agree their honesty will be with us forever. Thanks. Bye.